In this episode, we're going to dive into lock tensioning, how I tension locks, how I approach it in general, the nuances, and kind of my philosophy overall on lock tensioning. Hey folks, welcome to Pugs Picks Locks. If you're new here, go ahead and click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you'll always be notified of new content like this when I release it. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Go ahead, click that like button, and then leave a question or a comment down below, because I am so happy to engage with you in the comment section, either to answer questions or to receive your feedback, because I do not always get everything right. Did I get something wrong? Is there something I could do differently? Is there something I could do better? Please let me know. I'm always looking to expand my knowledge base, expand my skill set, and to provide better content for you. And speaking of content, if you have any requests for content, please leave that down below as well. For instance, this video is actually the result of a question or a comment posed by a subscriber in the comment section. Subscriber Riccardi, I think I'm saying that correctly, but anyhow, Riccardi asked for a video on tension tools and how to use them, and so here we are. Now, this is going to be a video series, because if I were to try to talk about all the tension tools and how to use them and all the tips and tricks and all the nuances and the philosophy of tensioning and all of that in a single video, it would end up being a very long video. And this video is probably going to be kind of long regardless. But it would be a super long video if we try to cover all that. So we're going to break this up into 3, maybe 4 parts. We'll see how it goes. Anyhow, before we dive in, let's start with a few definitions. So, and that's because, light, medium, and heavy tension, what does that actually truly mean? It means different things to different people. For instance, I might consider this to be heavy tension. I actually do consider this to be heavy tension. But what I consider to be heavy tension might be different for somebody who has giant hands and who works with their hands for a living, like they're a mechanic or a carpenter or a blacksmith, who knows, whatever. Do we even have blacksmiths anymore? But anyways, for them, this might be medium or even light tension, because their hand strength is just naturally greater than mine. Right? So if we quantify this a bit, we can, this is how I approach it. This is how I define it. Light tension is enough tension to turn the core. I am actually feeling resistance from the core. So the core will turn, but I can slip a pick between my tensioning finger, my thumb in this case, and the tension wrench. I can slip it through pretty easily. It slides through nicely. It doesn't take a lot of force or pressure. Heavy tension, if we go to the opposite end of the spectrum, heavy tension is this. You can see this tension wrench, and this little Z wrench is my favorite tension tool, just as a side note. But you can see it start to bend and flex. You can see a bow starting to be introduced into the shaft of the tension tool. And this is a pretty stiff piece of wire that this tension wrench is made from. So that's heavy tension. And you can see if I try to slide the pick through, the pick is actually bending and flexing also. I could force it through if I really tried, but it would take a bit of effort. In between the two is a happy medium. Sorry, that was dumb. Is a happy medium. Medium tension is this. I can still get the pick between my tensioning finger and the tension wrench. I can get it to slide through, but I have to work a little bit harder at it. So there's there's medium tension. And so for this video series, and actually just in general, this is how I define light, medium, and heavy tension. You might have seen this in other videos that I've posted. Okay, so let's start by talking about some of the most common advice you'll find on the internet. Well, find in general. See it in internet forums. I see it in videos. I see it even in lockpicking manuals, like that Easy Pickings booklet that comes with almost every beginner set, and we all have like 3-4 dozen copies laying about somewhere, right? And that piece of advice that I see most commonly is to use the lightest amount of tension possible. And I disagree with this approach. I disagree with this philosophy of tensioning. And for instance, if we take this big old chunky Master Lock number 5, and it could be any lock. If we take this big old Master Lock number 5, and we go ahead and we do that super duper light tensioning thing, you can you can see that I'm not touching it, not touching the tension wrench. Now I'm moving the tension wrench. Now the core is moving slightly. This core has stopped moving. And so this is our super light tension. So not touching it, moving the core stops moving, I stop tensioning, and I can slip the pick through fairly easily. So we have our super light tension, right? And then we go through and start working our way through the pin stacks. Okay, we did get an open. And you might have heard some clicks coming from the lock. And that's in part because right here, just off camera, there is a microphone. And so you're hearing the clicks kind of being amplified. Also, I'm in a relatively quiet studio. The only way that I knew that that we had gotten an open is I tested the core. After I touched pin 1, after I'd moved pin 1, I tested the core to see if it was set and if we had the open. I actually couldn't hear or feel pins 2 and 1 if they set or not. And that's a problem. You might have been able to hear it through the microphone right there. But I didn't hear or feel, and just to show the open, there we go, pop the lock and celebratory swivel. I didn't feel or hear pins 2 and 1 set. And that's because the tension is so utterly light that none of that tactile feedback is being transmitted through the tension wrench to my tensioning finger so that I can understand what's going on inside the lock, so I can understand what state that pin is in. I heard 4 and 3 go. I did not hear 2 and 1 go, and I did not feel any of them go. I got zero feedback. And feedback is one of the most important things about tensioning. You tension, and you lose that completely. You lose the feedback. You lose that ability to feel it when you are using that super duper light tensioning. Okay, so that's one of the ways that super light tensioning can really hold you back. Another way that it can hold you back is that some locks, and let's take this American Lock 1100 series as an example. Some locks, if we'll use top of the keyway tension for this. And just so you know, even though this looks like it's might be the bottom of the keyway because of where the pick is located, the tension wrench is located, that's actually top of the keyway tensioning. Up here is where the Bible is. This is where the Bible and the pins are. So this is the top. I turn it this way and tension this way because I'm left-handed, and I tension with my right thumb. So still it's still top of the keyway, even though I have it oriented the other direction. The so again, super light tension, and okay. I just overset pin 3. And part of the reason why I overset pin 3 is because that's super light tension. And the only way I know that I overset pin 3 is that it bottomed out. The pick just totally bottomed out. I know from experience how far the pick travels on a pin on a pin stack, and if it travels, that far. So pin 5, pin 4, 2 clicks out of 4, pin 3. Yeah, I did it again. And you can hear the pins drop back in to the core when I release the tension. The reason why it is so easy, super easy to overset a pin is because of point number 1. You don't get the feedback that you need to open this lock, or to feel the status of the pins as you're trying to set them. Okay. So I don't necessarily agree with I definitely don't agree with the advice to use super light tension. So let's go again to the opposite end of the spectrum and talk about heavy tension, because some of my favorite Locksport YouTube personalities, YouTube creators in the Locksport community, like Lockpicking Lawyer and Bosnian Bill, and I'm trying to remember, I think I've heard Lock Noob give this advice also. But several of my favorite personalities in the Locksport community, they talk about using as much pressure, as much tension as the lock will take. I think it was Bosnian Bill who even used the words that something to the effect that he likes to bully the lock, or maybe that was Lockpicking Lawyer. Anyways, somebody said it in some video somewhere on the internet. They like to bully the lock. And I don't really agree with this approach either. And I, like with super light tension, I get why they like this. I get the advice that they're giving. For instance, part of the reason why you might like super heavy tension, and I'm pretty sure that part of the reason why they like super heavy tension, is you can get, you hear and feel everything that's going on in the lock, right? You could hear, like, that was that pin 5 here, that's a serrated pin. You can hear every click. You can feel the crunch as that pick. You could feel the falsetto that came at the end of that. You feel everything and you hear everything, so the feedback is, the feedback is massive when you're using that much tension. The problem is that the more pressure, the more tension that you use, there is a corresponding need for more pressure with the pick to set a pin, to move a pin into place. The two are directly related. And the problem with that is, if we take my favorite pick, this Pagoda hook from Southord, if we take this and we use super heavy tension, we might end up with this, a handy dandy little probe / decoder / bypass tool, because the tip broke off. So there's a core. So you're gonna end up with tools that are bent and warped and eventually broken. So that's one of the drawbacks for it, but it also makes it really kind of super easy to to let me show you. So with this lock, it's another American lock, series 1100. I love these locks. They're my comfort locks. And we're using super heavy tension, and like I said, you get so much feedback. I really had to crank on pin 5 there. Pin 4 feels set. Pin 3 cranked on. Pin 2 cranked on that. Now I get to pin 1, and I got one click, and now it's kind of bound up. It feels set. I go back through the pin set stack, every pin, and I'm cranking kind of hard here. I mean, you can. This is a standard short hook, and so it has a thicker shank. The shank is thicker and beefier, and you can see that shank start to bend. I'm putting that much pressure on it. And so what's happened here is all the pins feel set. They're not moving. They all feel locked up tight. But I know from experience with this particular lock and from gutting it that pin 1 is actually a spool. And what happens, and I recently made a video on spool pins. So what happens is the bottom flange on that spool pin is literally wedged in between the core and the Bible. It's caught, that bottom flange is like locked up on the shear line because of using that much tension. And it feels exactly the same as the set pins with this lock. So heavy tension also reduces the amount of feedback that you might feel, because normally you might feel where a spool pin is. So if I use lighter tension on this lock, so now I'm on medium tension, medium light actually. I'm a little bit on the light side of the tension here. Okay, so there's 4 feels set. That was 5. 4 feels set. And here's 3. Okay, 3 is there's 2. And let's get on top of 1. There. And I don't know if you saw the counter rotation. Is that set? But that counter rotation was what I could not feel using that super heavy tension. Okay, so if I don't like heavy tension, and if I don't like super light tension as general philosophies, I must love medium tension, correct? Wrong. It's my philosophy of tensioning is not medium tension. Because you just saw with that green American lock, that 1100, that I was using towards the light end of the spectrum for the tension on it. So my philosophy is this: you use as much tension as you need to feel the feedback that you need to understand what's happening inside the lock at any point in time. So this means you use enough tension to feel the clicks of a set, the clicks of a serrated pin, and the counter rotation of a spool, and the status of a set pin or an overset pin. You use enough tension to get the feedback that you need to understand what's going on. And this means that you might vary the tension for each pin that you touch. I often tend to apply slightly heavier tension when I first touch a pin to prevent it from oversetting. I'll provide, and then as I am starting to press the pin, I'll play with either easing off the tension a little bit or pressing a little bit harder with the pick to set it. But I'll play with the amount of tension and pressure from the tension wrench and from the pick. I'll kind of play back and forth with them a little bit. And with spool pins, this is absolutely vital, because you have to decrease the tension and move with the counter rotation, and then increase the amount of tension kind of at the moment that the spool pin sets. And so as a demonstration of what I mean by that, let's go back to another one of my comfort locks here, this Brinks security padlock. So I am starting with kind of light tension. So like I said, it's as much tension as you need to feel the feedback that the lock is giving you, right? Okay, so with that super light tension, I got a solid click and core movement, so a false set out of pin 5. So now I move to pin 4, and like I said, I increase the tension a little bit to prevent myself from oversetting it. And then as I press on pin 4, I was playing with, and you saw me readjust a couple of times with the pick. I was playing with how much tension I was putting with the pick, and I backed off the tension, how much pressure I was using with the pick, and I backed off the tension slightly as I was trying to set that pin based on what I was feeling. And what I was feeling was a slight bit of counter rotation. So now let's go to pin 3, and I don't know if you can see that, but there's counter rotation again. That goes out of focus when I go that angle. So let's try this angle. Oops, let's get back onto pin 3. Okay. Can you see that slight bit of counter rotation? So I totally lost which pin I'm on. Sorry. Let me go back to the back of the lock. Back of the lock. There's 4. There's 3. Okay. So you see that counter rotation? And so as I feel the core counter rotating like that, I have to ride that counter rotation and ease off of the tension as the pin is counter rotating against me, against the tension wrench. So let's do that again. Let's go back. Pin 5, false set. Pin 4. Okay, the counter rotation and the click. Then pin 3, again, counter rotation and a click, and I'm riding that counter rotation. I'm backing off on the tension. I'm just letting the tension wrench, the counter rotation of the tension wrench, push my thumb, and then pin 2 feels set, and then pin 1, again, counter rotation. Trying to get my hand out of the way so you can see it. Counter rotation, and then a click. So we have her open. And so this philosophy of tensioning is super, super important when it comes to spool pins and serrated pins, because you have to kind of ride the tension back and forth a little bit. You're varying it. So at any point in time, you're using as much tension as you need to feel the feedback you need to understand what's going on inside of the lock at any point in time. And that's my approach and general philosophy of tensioning, folks. Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, remember to drop a like and leave a comment or a question below. If you're new here, subscribe and ring the notification bell for more content like this. Until the next video, happy picking y'all.